What are we about to watch? I'm bored.
I just started following C Media. I'm about to tune in to see what she's about.
C Media?
Yeah, Christine's doing interviews, podcasts, and controversial conversations.
Oh yeah, let's tune into this.
Montrael.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on C Media interviews today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get into it. So describe what music does to you, or what does it do to your spirit?
Music, it's like really fulfilling. I think it feeds my spirit. I think that's the best way to go about it, or the best way to say it. It definitely helps me get through the day. Yeah, it just kind of feeds and fulfills my spirit.
I wanted to know, how did you come up with the catchy stage name Montrael?
Okay, so my stage name is my real name, but I mean, everyone always calls me Monty. Ever since I was in high school, everyone calls me Monty. It's like something I can't get away from. And then I used to have this little joke when I went to camp with my friends. They used to call me Monty 0000 from the track. Then I figured that was kind of corny, so I cut that part off. And I don't know, I was just playing around with my friends one day, and I was thinking about the car, and it just kind of carried itself on. Just kind of made its own thing, and I just kind of kept it there.
I like that. So you got, different nicknames. So what inspired your latest single, Jaded?
My latest single, Jaded. I was in a place at that time that I made it where I wasn't too keen on relationships necessarily. Like, I wasn't sad. I think I was just kind of, feeling a little bold. I'm just letting y'all know, if you feel a little breeze, if you feel a little cold over here, it's because men be terrible people.
So how hard is it to work on your vocals? Coming from somebody like me, I cannot sing to save my life at all, okay? Mm-hmm. So I never understood the practice that goes into that.
So are you asking me what exactly do I do to maintain my vocals and things of that nature? Yeah, I believe singing, your vocal box is like an instrument. It's like a guitar or a piano. It needs tuning, it needs practice. It's just something that you get better at over time. And if you don't use it, then, it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't progress. So what I do is I just, I challenge myself to do new things all the time. I listen to different artists. I still do vocal exercises and, I just challenge myself. So things I couldn't do last year, I try to do them, this year. If I couldn't hit this note last time, I'm gonna keep trying until I hit that note. So, I just kind of treat it as if it's an instrument.
So in the industry, over the years, there's been controversial discussions with, light skin privilege in the music industry. We have the discussions about Cardi B, Queen Naja. I really want your intake on that, being a brown-skinned woman and, coming up in this music thing. What are your thoughts on that? Have you experienced it? Have you seen it?
I will start by saying that I definitely have experienced colorism in real life, in my daily life. I can't say that I've experienced it in my music life, in my industry life. I have not experienced that. But in a daily sense, I hear it a lot, even in microaggressions and macroaggressions and slight comments that aren't really, compliments and things of that nature. So it definitely exists, and I feel like it definitely exists in the music industry. It's kind of hard to touch on without offending somebody. So this question is a little hard, so I'm trying to answer it the best that I can as briefly as possible without giving all this. But yeah, I definitely believe it exists. That's not to take away from any artist that has gotten to where they are, because they used to say that about Beyonce, but Beyonce is Beyonce. She's literally amazing. I'm sure that the way that she looked, looking closer to European standards, did in some way, make her more marketable and maybe help her in a way, but she definitely got to where she was on her own. I think Cardi B worked hard to get to where she is on her own, but at the same time, we're looking at a woman who, is closer to, look-wise a European standard, where I feel like a woman like me, if I did some of the things she did, I don't think it would be praised in any way, you know. So I definitely feel like it exists. But I say that very loosely because I do feel like the women that are out right now, especially those three that you named, definitely deserve to be where they are. So it's kind of a catch-22.
1 year ago, you dropped your visual for Closer. And I just gotta say, I think that video was really put together perfectly. It was really nice. I really like how, you know, you incorporated some acting and you had your music over the acting, so you kind of could paint a picture in your own head of what the people were saying, you know what I'm saying? So can you tell us a little bit about what is that video?
That video, what went into it was just, I don't know, I think I have a really big imagination and I've been waiting to show everyone, you know, what I can do, because being an R&B, you know, singer or artist, it's always kind of hard to find where to pivot because I don't want to be in a box. So when I do my videos, I'm like, you know, I might want to dance, but I really want to make movies. Like, this might be a stretch, but kind of like Michael Jackson in a way, like all of his music videos are movies. And then he incorporates all his talents into it. And that's someone I really kind of, you know, look up to. So when I went into planning it, I just kind of instantly had a storyboard in my head. So I was just like putting it together, and my inspiration for that was a movie, Belly. It didn't go the same storyline, but just the setup, the colors, like I did it all. You know, everything had a purpose. I just wanted everyone to be seen, so I made everyone wear the same color. I wanted the one room to be pink, just like, you know, if you catch the reference, so you get the reference, and then the blue room to be blue, so you catch the reference, but it shows a different tone, you know, when you switch into, you know, the different scenes. So it wasn't too much that went into it. It was just more of like everything I thought about as soon as I made the song. It was like, I need to make a video. I just kind of wrote it down on paper and I handed it to the man. Shout out to Kyron. And we worked together to make it happen. So not a lot went into it, just creativity.
Who is somebody close to you that believed in you since you started making music?
That's so hard because I feel like at different points it's different people, but it hasn't always been, you know, the people I feel like are the closest to me sometimes. But I do have one friend in particular from the very, very beginning that has stayed consistent and actually is very instrumental in me being where I'm at. I was very shy. I still have a little anxiety, but I was very, very shy, and I went through a little health problem with my voice, and I just kind of gave up. Like, you know, I didn't want to make music anymore. And we would get together and make music. She plays piano and things of that nature, and we would just go, you know, just literally make songs. And we would be listening to other artists and giving critiques and saying, well, we could do better. And then she just kind of went ham on me one day and was like, you're saying what you can do, but you're not really doing it. So her name is Official Plain Jane. That's her artist name. She's a rapper. She's from the city. Super dope. And she's still a really close friend of mine today. She always pushes me forward. So she is definitely one from the very, very beginning.
In a generation filled with auto-tune, how do you find the courage to continue to showcase raw talent?
I don't feel pressure to use auto-tune because I think I can sing. And I mean that very humbly. Like, I'm not even trying to be funny, but I love live singing. I love real singers. So growing up listening to that, like, that's what I want to be, you know. I don't want to be like anybody else, but I still want to keep that same essence, especially when R&B and music has changed so much over time. I think there are no bounds to anything, but for me, I just want to keep it, you know, keep it raw. I don't feel like I should be able to go into the studio, hit a note, it doesn't sound right, they tweak it, and it only sounds good on the record. Every note I go into the studio to record, I feel like I should be able to sing that same exact note live without rehearsal.
Right. So I really enjoyed your quarantine tunes episode on YouTube. I think that's a great way for people to get some insight of you and your personality.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really interesting to watch. And did you feel like during the pandemic, you know, we had so much time. Do you think that time helped you? Did you think it was too much time? Or you thought it was perfect? Like, that's what we needed at that time. Not that we needed COVID at all, of course. You know what I'm saying?
It was so ghetto.
But definitely we had that break from society a little bit, you know, in the beginning.
I would love to be that guy and be like, oh yeah, like I had so many ideas. That's not true. I was completely overwhelmed and completely thrown, and I had so much other life things going on that it made the pandemic look like nothing. Like I couldn't even focus. I actually took the longest break, I feel like, in my music career because it was hard for me to get to where I needed to get sometimes. And as far as music went, I completed Closer, the one song, but I had to finish it over the phone, which was very difficult. Then I ended up having to find a new studio, or a new person to record, and my anxiety kind of got in the way of a lot of that stuff. So it was very emotional, like a really emotional and overwhelming time. So I don't know if it was completely helpful. It made me focus on my vulnerability more, for sure. I don't know if I necessarily like that, but maybe that's a good thing. But I don't know if it was helpful creatively for me.
Now, speaking of that same video, I really enjoyed the private setting that you had. Mm-hmm. And you know what I was thinking? I'm like, would you ever consider singing in front of a small audience, like an intimate wedding or, you know, a gathering, an event, a small event where it's like a personal kind of setting?
I don't think I'm too big for anything, so I definitely would if the vibes were right. Mm-hmm. And if I really felt drawn or compelled to the space, I definitely would. You know, I live for love. I live for intimate settings. I live for the acoustics and, you know, those nice, you know, sexy environments. So I definitely would do it if I felt drawn to it.
Now, based on what you've seen in the industry, do you ever feel pressure to alter yourself in any way to get noticed?
I have this conversation with my friends all the time. I feel like being a woman, well, I'm sure men go through too, so I'm not going to X them out. But speaking from a woman's perspective, I feel like it's very difficult because you see all these different women, and nowadays they all kind of look the same. I don't shame anybody. I feel like, you know, you do what you want to do. Whatever makes you happy, whatever helps you sleep at night, you shouldn't be, you know, shamed for it. But it does kind of create this climate where it makes you feel like something's not right with you when you see a bunch of people who, you know, are shaped a certain way, have a certain look. You're like, I don't really look like that. You know what I'm saying? I got stretch marks, I got eyes, you know, I got cellulite, like I don't look like that. But so I thought about it, you know, I've gone pretty far to an extent to even reach out to some places to see if I can get some things done. But then I kind of remind myself that I'm young and there's nothing wrong with, you know, being natural. As far as sex in the industry goes, that one is always hard. I was raised by very conservative parents. And I too myself kind of struggle because it's like, yes, I want to be sexy, but at the same time with my beliefs, I'm like, I don't want to feel like I'm sacrificing too much. So I don't know for me if it's being noticed. I think it's an internal battle, but I definitely feel like with cosmetic altercations, that's something that, you know, I kind of find a little, you know, at war with myself with sometimes. I'm like, if I look like this, maybe I would get smarter. Maybe if I slid down a pole, I would get noticed more. But I don't know if I'm willing to sacrifice, you know, my morals and my values to please people. I feel like if I'm genuinely talented, I'll get to where I need to be doing what I'm doing and being myself.
What could you say is the biggest challenge about doing music in a small city?
There's any challenges. I used to complain and moan and be like, oh, there's never anything to do, there's never anywhere to perform. But there's tons of opportunities and tons of places to perform. And then there's that, it's Rochester like crabs in a bucket, but I feel like that would be anywhere you go. I don't know if I can really just say that's a here thing. And the older I get, I just learned that I feel like God puts you where you need to be when it's time for it. So if this is what you're supposed to do, He'll make it happen, but you gotta meet Him halfway and do the work. And I feel like sometimes we get caught up in our bag and our feelings when things don't happen on our time. We try to blame it on our environment. We try to blame it on our city. We try to blame it on our people around us. When really the people that we look at went through the same things and they just worked hard. So instead of complaining about it, you just gotta do it. So I don't know if there's any quote unquote challenges or boundaries. I just think it's really a personal thing.
Now I gotta ask, what's your opinion on artists pulling publicity stunts before an album release? There's a whole lot of different publicity stunts. I'm sure you could think of a couple in your head. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
It depends on what it is.
Right.
It depends on what it is, because there's, you do have to catch people's attention. So I'm not gonna say, everyone who does that, you're whack. Like, I don't feel like that. I'm not gonna say anybody is weak or weird for doing it. I just think it depends on what you're doing and what you're willing to do. Like, let's not be crazy. Okay, let's not do anything ridiculous. Okay, let's have some class when we do it. All right. Like I said, it just depends on what it is, because you do have to find a way to gain people's attention, because unfortunately talent's just not enough these days, and our attention span is way shorter than it was years ago. So it's like you really got to do something to keep people on you. So it just depends on what it is.
So I really want to hear your experience with working with men, whether it was a feature, producer, especially for young women who want to be in this industry one day. A lot of people are apprehensive about working with men.
I have good and bad experiences. I have some weird experiences. I don't think there's anything to be scared of. You're gonna deal with lots of challenging things, lots of obstacles and weird people, no matter what it is that you do. The industry is a weird place. Music sometimes can be very weird. So I would just say, don't be scared. Just kind of assert yourself and stay 10 toes down and just demand what you want. And be about what you say you're about, Be clear, just be assertive and make sure they know, what it is. Sometimes it doesn't always work that way, so I'm not going to paint a picture like it's easy, because I've caught myself in some really uncomfortable positions dealing with people, and I could have had a bonnet on and I could have had the whole armor of God on, and for some strange reason they still felt the need to be weird. But not all men are that way. I've had great experiences working with some producers who are strictly about my craft, strictly care, really care about me and what we're doing. And then I've had some people who kind of stray off, or they get mad because you don't want to give them something in return for whatever it is that they're doing. It's almost like they feel like you owe them something. And I don't think that's something that's ever going to change. It's not even just an industry thing. That's something that happens in the workplace. So quite honestly, don't be scared. Just tread waters, and just like I said, be aware, be assertive, be clear. And I've learned to just bring certain people into certain spaces. I bring my friends with me if I'm going to a new space. I you know what I'm saying? So I've, over time, just learned what makes me comfortable.
Now, can you take us back to when you first got recognized? When you first felt like, people are really starting to notice me. How did that feel?
It felt really great. It was probably when I first started making music for real. Because I used to sing and perform and stuff, so people go, oh yeah, you can really sing. But when I started putting music out, that was a different story. I had created this whole project before I released my first project, No Love Lost, and I scratched it because I was so scared and I didn't think anyone was gonna like it. And everyone's so used to me singing, gospel or singing these, songs where you just stand behind a mic. And I've got all these different ideas, I've got all these different beats that I want to use, and I'm not sure people will receive it. So I was really nervous. So when I dropped my first single and then my next project, and I had such a good response, I really didn't have any negative ones. I felt kind of vindicated. I felt really good. I felt like I was appreciated, and it gave me some extra motivation. And I know that as I go on, there will always be people that don't feel that way, so I'm prepared for that now. But when I first got recognized, it felt really, really good because I'm like, hey, I'm really talented. I can sing. People like my stuff. So I felt good.
Now, personally, I feel like you have the look, you have the personality, and you definitely have the voice. Now, people coming up, that's not always the case where it seems like they have that all together, which could be really challenging. Some people don't really care about how they dress or how they look. That doesn't matter to them. But once you go into the industry, it's a whole different life. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people judge you based on how you look, how you talk, anything like that. So I really want to know, what is one piece of advice you could give to somebody lacking in some other aspects other than their talent?
Well, first of all, shucks. I really appreciate that. I don't know if I'm fit to give advice, even though you just gave me that wonderful rollout. It was just so nice of you. Wow, I'm blushing. Thank you. I don't know. I'm still working on it. So I think that I totally hear what you're saying. It is definitely a different ballgame, and I feel like we all kind of know that going into it. Mm-hmm. I know there are some people who don't care, and then I think there's some people that it's not that they don't care, that might just be, their MO. And for some people it works. I think if people like you, because, people have to like you these days. If they like you, they gonna like however you come. So, do you. Obviously, over time you learn, you do better, you mature, you realize what works for you. Like I said, I'm still figuring it out. Around this time last year, I did an interview, and I was stressed out about what I was going to wear. I know how I should have looked. I didn't know, and now I don't even think twice about it. I just kind of get dressed. So I don't put too much thought into it. I just kind of have learned to be myself. Like, instead of trying to look like anybody else or trying to take notes from somebody, what makes me comfortable? What do I feel the most confident in? What do I feel like is going to draw attention? Even if it's the simplest of things, what do I feel is going to make me stand out? So I think that's just kind of what you have to keep in mind when you're thinking about your look, what you want to portray. As far as how you speak, that's something I'm starting to learn because I think I have a great vernacular and I'm very articulate, but I like to cuss a lot. I like to cuss and I like to use a lot of slang when I speak, and I used to, just kind of let it go. But now I'm learning that you can still, no one's taking anything away from me if I don't do that every time that I'm speaking. Like I said, I've matured. It was more of a rebellious thing too, because I would have my mom telling me you can't talk like that. And I'm like, you're only saying that because you're my mom. I can talk if I want to talk. But now I know that my audience is very diverse. It's not just only people. I have teenagers and young women, young girls even, that reach out to me a lot and they're like, oh, you inspire me, So now I feel compelled to kind of watch how I speak. So I just think the look, how you speak, how you come, it definitely, there's no right way to do it. I just say be yourself and be willing to learn. Be willing to take critique, learn how to not take it as, bad all the time. Of course, don't let anyone shut you down or try to change you. Just, as you mature, you'll figure out what works for you and what goes in certain spaces. And if you don't, well, you need to get it together.
A lot of people are hesitant to work on their dreams because they're scared to fail. I think that's the number one thing. Nobody likes to fail. Nobody likes to take an L. And I was one of those people, and I'm so glad I started doing these interviews interviews because it really taught me a lot. You have to take that risk. So can you give me a time that you had to take an L and it worked out for you for the best, you know?
I've taken so many L's. I don't even know where to start. Let me see. Let's pick one. I would say when I started making music, finding somewhere to record and be consistent was really difficult because people always tell you have to be consistent, you have to stay on top of it. And yes, that's very true, but sometimes you can't help your circumstance. And sometimes due to uncomfortable situations that I didn't want to put myself in, I had to kind of take a step back where I couldn't put music out. I couldn't deliver when I was supposed to. I couldn't get this record out on time. I couldn't make this video deadline. So I've taken so many, well, I don't know if they're necessarily L's, I would just say setbacks. Then when I got sick, when I found out I had my little vocal situation back when I was 14, that really messed everything up for me and set me back some more years. So I've had a lot, but I think that if it's something that you truly want to do, then you're going to push through it every time. If it's something you're passionate about, is something you cannot live without. It's something that you can't live your life not doing. Or else you're going to live a life full of regret. You're going to be like, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. And who wants to live like that? I mean, honestly, like I said before, I think God puts us exactly where we need to be, okay, at the time that we need to be there. You just gotta meet Him halfway. So it's like, you know, I would say you just gotta go for it. It's hard, it's not easy, it's way easier said than done. I still struggle a lot sometimes. I set deadlines for myself. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it anymore. I'm too scared. Or I take pictures and I'm like, I don't know if people are gonna take it. And honestly, it got to a point where I'm like, well, I'm gonna do it, and either you like it or you don't. But I gotta do this for me, not for anybody else. So
I like that. I like that part when you say you gotta do it for you, because a lot of people forget to do that. And I need to know what is in store for Montrael.
Okay, I've been waiting for this question. I have a new project coming out very soon. I'm working on better marketing, more visuals, and I'm just working on being more present, more performances live and stuff. So that's pretty much what's coming, and maybe a little clothes for y'all. So if you like the way I dress, you know, stay tuned. So that's what's coming.
That's so exciting. I cannot wait. You know, I'll be following.
Thank you.
Yes, so I really appreciate you for coming on C Media interviews, and we gotta see you again.
Thank you for having me, and I'll be back.